Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm at the Marion County Public Library, and I'm here with Charlie Bickett, who is a first-time author, well known here in Marion County, former mayor of Raywick, right? Have you lived in Raywick your whole life?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, this book that he has written is called Over 100 Years of Stories and Tales of Kentucky Raywickians and Friends. Tell us a little about your book here.
Well, it just, like I told you, I lost a lot of friends here the last 2 years. They just jumped up and died or whatever. And as I sold my bar a couple of years ago, but I tell their families about stories that we've done together. This and that. They're just intrigued about it, and then they'll come in and say, tell me something else about Granddaddy. And so, as I was telling these stories, the computer came along, and my daughter sort of gave me a first-hand how to use it, and so I just started typing stories on my Facebook about different things that I've encountered the last 40 years, from high school to me being mayor and running a bar and working in a prison. I put all them together. And the 100 years comes in. I had an old ledger came out of Raywick years ago, and it dates back to 1876, 78. They had great stories about Raywick, so I adopted 2 or 3 stories put in there. So that's where the 100 years come in at. But anyway, I started typing, and the audience gotten bigger on my Facebook, and I went from 20, and last year I'm up to over 2,000 people, and it's not because of me, my personality, no doubt, but they love my stories, you know, and by the time I type one, within 8 or 10 hours, there'll be over 150, 200 people respond to it or comment on it or liked it. And so it was interesting, so that just sort of inspired me to start writing more and more and more. And I've got some drama in there, and I try to stay away from real dark items that happen in the bar scene and other things there because it affects too many people, our family people, neighbors and stuff. So I put a lot of humor in it, and after each story, I sort of had a moral of each story, and something that I just thought in my head there. And a lot of people read to see what the end's going to say. So what's he going to say at the end there? So that's a lot of fun there too.
Yeah, so you started actually compiling the book about 6 months ago, and it is a bunch of stories, like you said, but there's also a lot of pictures, and you have some pictures you were saying in here that some people may have never seen before.
I know there have been 2 or 3 stories written about Charlie Stiles, and you see every picture, every story you ever wrote about, you see that one mug shot of Charlie Stiles.
Now, Charlie Stiles,
he was killed by state police back in 1971 or 2, and he'd been a sort of a gangster, but he was just, everybody loved him in Raywick, and they said he had a gun the day that he got killed, and he was set up or whatever, but anyway, he was killed, and so the legend went on about Charlie, more or less like a Robin Hood, and so those photographs, Charlie Stiles' wife died a couple of years ago. Her name is Mary D. Stiles, and all of a sudden it clicked on. I said, they have to have some pictures of Charlie, and so by the time I did some research, I found out where the pictures were at. These pictures come out of nowhere, just of him having kids on his shoulder, hay rides, on tractor, fishing, this guy that nobody's ever seen or heard of in 40 years, ever since he's been dead. So that intrigues me, and I've got pictures of Johnny Boone that nobody's ever seen. And I've got pictures of Cooch Allen that nobody's ever seen. Of course, I'm talking about these fellas here, but there's a lot of other stories, a lot of other pictures in it I've got too that it took me time. Jimmy Higgins' little envy of me, he said, all you got to do on Facebook when I needed a picture for a story, I need pictures of, let's say, Gary White. I need pictures of Gary White's granddaddy. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here these pictures come up. And Jimmy said he tried that, he couldn't get a picture at all. But I mean, they all over Facebook. So I got them, pasted them in my deal there. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you worked on it for about 6 months. What are some of the stories that you think are? Give us 1 or 2 stories that are kind of unique and really.
Well, I'll mention the one about Johnny Boone then. First time I ever met Johnny Boone was 1979-80. We just started at the park. The governor just appointed me the mayor of Raywick. And Emmer George and I, Judge Donahue and J.T. Whitlock went to Frankfort to pick up a $13,000 check. We went down to Frankfort. I'm in my suit. We shake hands with the governor. He gives me the $13,000 check. In return, I give him a country ham. Well, on the way back, Emmer dropped me off in Lebanon, and I came back to the bar, which I still owned at the time. I walked in the bar, and I seen a big crowd outside, and I said, what the hell's going on in there? And so anyway, my brother was running, fights broke out, and there was Johnny Boone laying there like a big buffalo laying right in the floor, just passed out or whatever, and red-headed as can be, just stout, just homegrown muscles. Had shorts, had a muscle shirt on. I looked, who in the hell is he? So I go over there, and by that time, the fight broke out, and I had my check. I want to show everybody my check, $13,000 check for Raywick. this cat grabbed it and tore it in two. And I just like to fell backward. This governor just wrote the check out to me. So I went home, changed my clothes, came back up, got me a number 21 cue stick, and I introduced that boy to my stick. Ran him out. That time Johnny Boone woke up. And Johnny Boone looked at me. He started grinning wide open, and he walked up to me, and he gave me $500 for the park. He said, "Here, take this to the park there." He said, "I've been sleeping here all day long anyway." So that's one of the stories, but there's more to this story here. But just like that, things like that, just you remember it so well.
So did you get the $13,000 back?
Yeah, Emma George took it back to Frankfurt. I sent it back, and the governor wrote me another check out. But he was just crazy. He just grabbed it, and he didn't think it was real, but it was real. It was a real McCoy.
Yeah.
And so that actually happened there, and that around 79, 80. That's when we started the park, and so that was a
City Park.
Pretty good deal there.
How long did you own the bar?
I owned it from 72. I worked at Little Tudor from 71 to 72, and then I ran bars off and on 72 to 2012. And of course, during 90s, I worked at the prison too, but still owned the bars.
Right,
and so,
40 years.
One more of the story I can tell you. I'm working at the prison. This is 1987, 88, and we had new warden, deputy warden. We had two new captains from North Point, and they heard about Raywick. And so it took me 2 weeks to convince them to come down to my bar to visit me. They came down. Anyway, two captains and deputy warden came down, plus 4 or 5 other guards came down. So I'm entertaining them, right? It's about 7, 8 o'clock at night. They still had their uniforms on. And so here comes this cat in and flashing his gun, swinging it all over the bar there, and I jumped to shit. And I said, "Don't be bringing that gun in here now." So he put it in his pocket. And about 2 minutes later, this guy walked in and said, "Hey," talking about the guy, "you got a flat tire out here." Well, he jumped up, pulled his gun out, and said, "Anybody messes with my car, I'll shoot him right there on the spot." So, the others, captain and the wardens, all sitting there. So, never have been to Raywick. Kept seeing this on the end of the bar. About a minute later, boom, shot went off. And we sort of looked, and I said, "That happens in Raywick all the time. Don't worry about it, guys." Another minute later, here walked this guy in the eyes that big around. He said, "This fella just shot himself." We go outside, and there he was, laying dead. It's 4 o'clock. And what he done, he went out there and threw the gun at his head. He said, if anybody messes with my car, I'll kill him just like this. Boom, dead. So I called the state police and the Catholic priest up, and the Catholic priest was doing his last rites to him. And the state trooper, was named Boone, I think. I'm not sure. But he told this priest, he said, "You need to stay away from the body till we have it." And he said, "I got my job to do, you got your job to do." And so the next day we go to work, and the warden called me over to his office. See, he wasn't there. He said, "What the hell happened down your place last night?" Because they was all talking about it. And so I told him what happened there. So the two captains never did come back down my bar no more after that.
I wonder why.
But the first time they came down, I draw this pretty picture about, don't worry about it, everything's cooler in Raywick, and they kill them right there within 15 feet of them. But that was pretty dramatic there for me and them that too. But there's a lot of great stories and good stories. I'm sort of telling you some.
So how many, just off your head, how many shootings do you think actually occurred at your bar the 40 years you were?
Well, not the bar in Raywick. I've probably seen 5 killings, a couple of shootouts, a couple of cuttings, robberies, just all that. Just all within 40 years. You see a lot of things. And Raywick's not the only place around. I mean, in most instances you see that everybody was out of town that actually got killed there, except one person I know of. But they either happened down the street, across the street, whatever. I actually witnessed a shootout. A family and another guy got into it, and it was on a GE just got off. My place was full, and they got into it in the bar. They went outside, went home, got the guns, got on Main Street. Both parties got shot up. Houses got shot up, and so it was crazy. We all peeping in the window there, and of course I had a family get mad at me because I called the law when it all happened, because every house in Raywick was getting hit, and so that was crazy as hell. Then I had a guy one time, he was crazy, went through Raywick, and he's cooking a big pot of soup up, and I turned the soup over, put a piece of old head in there. He got all mad at me. I won't mention now that you read it in the book. And he went home and got his gun. I knew he was going to come back, try to shoot my windows out. And so I had my pistol. I was going to shoot his tires up when he come back. By the time I aimed at the gun, he put a shotgun out and shot. And if it wasn't for the big metal door, it hit me in the face. But he shot 3 buckshots in my hand. Shot the pistol out of my hand. And so we went to the emergency room that night. I did, and then they brought the city police in. Of course, anytime they have shootings, they want to know who it was. I said, a bunch of boys from over Holy Cross came by and shot the place up. Nobody ever knew any difference there. I wasn't going to tell nobody. But that actually happened there. Of course, at the end of the book, you know all the names once you read the book.
Once you read it. So there's some of the stories that are in this.
Yes.
Over 100 years of stories and tales of Kentucky Raywickians, which is your word, right? And friends. I can see, in addition to the stories, there's tons of pictures, as we were saying, but there's also pictures all over the book. Are they?
I did that one day, and I still got them all. I hate to destroy them like that. Of course, Kirk Madigan told me I could probably put them on the computer and splice them out like that, but I took scissors, started cutting them, and I just started laying them on a piece of paper, pasting them up, and so that was the result of it. And another reason I wrote the book, I dedicated this book to my old buddy, I don't know if you ever knew Goober Spalding, and on the back end of it, where let's see here, this is Goober there. He died here a few months ago. And me and him don't know each other 40 years, and that's something else that, got me going there. Just like saying, all the stories Goober could have told, they're all gone. And so I know his family could tell stories about Goober, but I mostly could tell most of the stories about Goober. So I want to preserve all that. And just every character in there has got a story about it, just like a loaf of bread. Take a slice out, and you can tell a story about it.
Right.
And that's the way my life was as far as 40 years in bar business.
Now, this book is available for sale. It's on Amazon.com, right? And you also have several book signings that are going to be taking place over the next few weeks. I know.
I have right here at Marion County Library. I have it Thursday night, and that'll be on
August 28th.
August 28th. Then I have Missy's Alloway Cafe, 4th of September, on a Thursday night. Then I have White Trash. It's a bike club. They sell a lot of apparatuses for bikers, isn't that? That's September 6th on a Saturday night.
Okay.
And I got,
and where is that? What?
In Campbellsville, Kentucky.
Campbellsville, okay.
And then I got in Hodgenville, I got the library there, Lincoln Loft, September 11th. Okay. And then I got Caviar Forge in Louisville. Of course, we haven't set a date there yet. Then I got Hound Days coming up.
Right.
And so I'll be up here Hound Days either at over Chris Bickett's place at the nightclub.
Big Jim.
Yeah, Big Jim there. So I've got this month pretty well booked up, but I'm still wanting to go somewhere else if anybody's interested, wanting to put up with me, whatever. Okay, so if you want to do a book signing, get to talk to Charlie, get it signed as well, you can go to one of these book signings, or you can go on Amazon.com and look up over 100 years of stories and tales of Kentucky Raywickians and friends. It's about $18 or so for the book, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing.
Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
Great.
I really appreciate that.
And do you see another book in the wings?
Yes, I sure do. Somebody said, was I going to start saving my stories? I don't know. On Facebook, you can have private pages. And Kirk said instead of writing them all on Facebook, letting everybody read them, maybe write one for Facebook, then put me a private one over here. And so that way I have stock piled up if I venture into another book, whatever. But I've been getting a lot of good response on that, so I'm tickled with it. I'm real tickled with it.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, I've been talking with Charlie Bickett. Go out and get his book about Raywick. This is Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.